Today's lesson is very similar to yesterday's lesson. Today we are going to break apart numbers that have factors of 6, 7, and 8. If you will remember, yesterday we broke apart factors, numbers that had factors of 3, 4, and 5. So let's say that we have 3 times 8. I can break down the 3 into a 2 and we'll still multiply that by 8, and I'm going to break that down into a 1 and still multiply that by 8. Okay, so instead of having 3 rows of 8, I have 2 rows of 8 and 1 row of 8. This is review from yesterday. You do not need to write this part down. I'm just reviewing with you. 2 times 8 is 16. 1 times 8 was 8, and then we added those numbers together, and that equals 24. Okay, today we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to break apart 6, 7, and 8. So what I would like you to do right now is push pause and write this in the next blank spot in your notebook, breaking apart 6, 7, and 8. What you need to do now is, here's our example for today that we're going to go over. You can draw a square, a large rectangle, and label one side, the short side 8, and the long side 12. Ladies and gentlemen, if I want to multiply 8 times 12, I am just using a visual model right now. I'm going to imagine that there are 12 rows in here. But man, my brain is having a hard time thinking about it like that. So what I can do is I can go ahead and break apart my 12 into something that's easier. You can break it down into anything smaller that you want as long as it equals 12. But what if we broke it down into a 10 and a 2? That would make our brain work a lot less, because our brain should be able to multiply 8 and 10. And our brain should be able to multiply 8 by 2. What I'm saying here is that here is 10. Let's say I have 10 columns right here. So my 10 columns, and there's 8 in each column. Remember our visuals of yesterday? So this is 8 times 10. And then right here, this is 8 times 2. I only have 2 columns, but there's 8 in there. And then what I do is add them together. This is the same as yesterday, just working with larger numbers. All of you should know that 8 times 10 is what? 80. And then 8 times 2 is what? 16. Adding them together in your head, you should be able to say, oop, 8, my ones column is my ones column is a 0, has a 0 in it, and so my 6 stays, and then my tens column is just an 8 and a 1. So 80 plus 16 is 96. Now, wasn't that a lot easier on your brain than multiplying 12 times 8? I took my big long number and broke it into something that was easier to use. It's always easy to multiply by 10, and then there was only 2 left over. Let's do one more example. Oops, that is not what I wanted. I apologize. Let's find a rectangle here. Let's say I have this number here, or this rectangle here, and I have a, let's say a 9. And let's make this a 5. If I don't know what 9 times 5 is, I could break apart my 9 into something that's easier to do. Let's say I break it up into a 5. And what would this be? This part would be a 4. Good, because if there's 5 rows here and 4 rows here, 5 and 4 still makes up my total of 9. Okay? So now my number sentence. You would write down, I have 5 because this is 5. And then I would multiply it. That looks like a plus. That's a multiply by these 5 rows right here. So this 5 times this 5 is my first part of my number sentence. And then over here, this is still a 5. And I'm going to multiply it by the 4. So 5 times 4. So all I did was break down the 9 into a 5 and a 4. I'm going to add those together. You should know that 5 times 5 is what? 25. 5 times 4 is 20. And you're in your head, again, my ones column has a 0 in it. So 5 and 0 is 5. 2 and 2 is 4. My answer is 45. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very similar to yesterday. What I would like for you to do now is get out your worksheet that I have handed out to your group. I handed out a worksheet to your group, and it has one side on it says reteaching. At the top it says reteaching 3-5. I would like for you to go over the reteaching 3-5. I want you to complete that side together with a partner, or you may do it on your own and check with Mrs. Johnston. Once I am comfortable with how you have that done, I will clear you to go ahead and do your practice side. So do your reteaching side, and then once you can turn it over and do the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the reteaching side problems needs to have an array where you rewrote it as a number sentence. So you should have rewrote it as a number sentence. For example, what I would like you to do is, let's say the problem is 7 times 5. I want you to, somewhere on that paper, show me that you broke apart the 2 into 2 and 5. Or if your problem is 8 times 6, I want you to show me that you broke apart the 8 into a 4 and a 4. Somewhere on your paper, show me that so that I understand what you're doing. And then show Mrs. Johnston your reteaching side, let her clear that off, and you can get started on your practice side.